Welcome to Informed Sources on News Channel 3, where we talk about the week's big stories with local voices. I'm your host, Greg Hurst. Thanks for joining us. In a moment, I'll introduce our panel, but first, here are tonight's hot topics. A plan to restructure the Memphis-Shelby County School District, eliminating some jobs, moving people from one position to another, and in many cases, reducing salaries. That, as you can imagine, is generating a lot of controversy. In fact, the school board voted this week to pause the superintendent's plan after it was leaked. We'll weigh in on the budget issues involving your child's education. We'll also discuss the latest development in the ongoing dispute between District Attorney Steve Mulroy and State Senator Brent Taylor. The senator sent another letter to the state this week accusing the DA of not doing his job. We'll take a closer look at this latest controversy. Oh, and speaking of Senator Taylor, he's pushing the governor to bring in an outside consultant to help Memphis deal with violent crime. But is hiring an outsider the right thing to do? Our panel will weigh in. But before we begin tonight's discussion, let's introduce our panel. I am joined by Pastor Kenneth Whalum Jr. and former Shelby County GOP Chairman Justin Joy. It's good to see you both.
Great to be here.
It's been a while. Hope your summer's going well.
It is.
Going hot.
We got going hot, kind of like some of the topics we have for tonight.
Absolutely.
Right. All right, let's jump right in. Let's begin tonight with education. In fact, after a backlash from staffers and school board members, the restructuring of the Memphis-Shelby County School District has been put on pause. Dr. Marie Fagan shared her vision in a district-wide email saying 1,100 positions would either be eliminated or restructured. This led to a specially called meeting, and ultimately the school board approved a resolution demanding more transparency and putting a pause on the proposed restructuring of the district. It's a task Dr. Fagan says she does not take lightly.
I take this serious. You could take the $325K from me today and I'll show up tomorrow. Next is now. I am taking this with pride to bring before you the hardest decisions that have not been made in previous years before me.
Now, to be clear, this resolution does not stop the proposed cuts. It only pauses them temporarily. In the meantime, both board members and Dr. Fagans will continue their talks before the final budget is approved. So, Pastor Whalum, let's start with you. You served on the school board. You know, the superintendent has been on the job for 2 years. She's really trying to shake things up here. She's trying to cut jobs, reorganizing the staff, and in the meantime, she's also upsetting quite a few people. Are these the right changes at the right time?
I think they are the right changes. I think it is unfortunate that our board seems incapable of being a board of commissioners, setting policy, and allowing their only employee, the superintendent, to do his or her job. It's unfortunate. Nobody wants to lose their job. As a person who's lost a few jobs in the past and had to do without for a while, nobody wants that. However, Greg, the job of the school system is not to protect administrative jobs. The job of the school system is to educate children and produce productive citizens. The bottom line is, let's give her time to do her job, and it'll take at least a year to see if those cuts are yielding any fruit.
You know, Justin, she is in some way leaving the impression that there are a lot of people at the district, and there are a lot of people there who have cushy jobs but aren't doing really anything to help improve education. So she wants to move more people to that area. Could that be true?
I think that is the strategy, Greg, to get closer to the classroom, I believe, as she has said. And, you know, we just saw some results recently that still, I believe it's, you know, less than 30% proficiency at the 3rd and 4th grade levels when it comes to reading. You know, we've got to do something about that. And I think we all agree that something has to be done. So let's reallocate, let's restructure some of those resources to get them into those teaching, into those classroom roles.
You know, she did have some sobering statistics. In fact, in making these changes, the superintendent pointed out that currently 78% of the students are not reading proficiently. 83% of the students are deficient in math. Beyond that, she says there is a 51% chronic absenteeism and 41% truancy. Which one of those is most troubling?
Well, all of them are troubling, except that I find hope in the fact that if people who are in central office, and I know this from personal experience, people don't get to central office overnight. People don't get to central office without any qualifications. Most of the people who are in central office were at one time in the classroom, and they performed well, and that's why they got bumped up into central office. Let's please let more reasonable minds prevail, allow the superintendent to do the job, put people into those positions in the schools that have been vacant for far too long. I am convinced that when a professional educator, a professional administrator gets close enough to these children to show love and to give guidance, I believe that the results will tell them.
You know, you've seen this firsthand. She was hired to make changes to a struggling district here, but yes, she's getting a lot of pushback from the old guard that's in there. So do students need the status quo, or do you think they really need more significant change?
The status quo has not worked, Greg, and change is difficult, and I think that's where a lot of the pushback is coming from. But again, I don't think there's any dispute, there's any disagreement that there has to be some changes made. We can't keep things where they are now with the current performance in the district.
You know, she also says that she's just trying to make the hard decisions that were not made in the past. Is that true?
Key point. Right. We've been kicking the can down the road. It's a proverbial saying, kicking the can down the road and stockpiling employees at central office. And Greg, it's obvious that central office being fully and overly stocked is not resulting in what the bottom line of the school district is supposed to be. Again, the job of the system is not to protect administrative jobs. The job of the school system is to produce productive citizens.
To the pastor's point, the district does employ about 14,000 people. Just slightly fewer than half of those actually teach. Does the district need that many administrators?
I can't imagine how. And I think that's one of the whole purposes of this exercise, is to do some right sizing. I mean, we've talked about right sizing in terms of facilities. Now let's right size in terms of staff and reallocate them where we do need those resources deployed, and that's in the classroom, not in the central office.
She's focusing on these 1,100 employees. Some of them may be shifted to other jobs. You mentioned that a lot of them have experience within the classroom. Why the pushback, do you think? Is it because of maybe the salary structure could be different as well?
I think that's part of it. Another part of it is just tradition, man, and comfort level. People get comfortable doing a certain thing. All of us do. But I think we should keep in mind that the bottom line here is that our city is in a downward spiral. And part of the reason for that is because we made a mistake many years ago in surrendering the charter of our school system, giving up control, abandoning literally 100,000 children, and dropping them on the doorstep of a much smaller county system at the time. We've got to, you know, there's an old saying that says the chickens come home to roost. And they are coming home in a very, very uncomfortable and tragic way right now.
You know, they talk about there are about 550 deficiencies as far as teachers are concerned. Not deficient teachers, but vacancies, I guess is what I should say. So 550 vacancies out there. If they could shift some of those, is that where the focus should be?
I think so. And to the extent that you can have folks that are qualified to fill those spots, why not make that shift? I mean, school starts again in 2 months. That's not much time to fill, you know, over 500 slots. So let's use the resources that we have, put those resources and deploy those resources to where we need them in the classroom.
Which is why I was sad to see that the board paused the superintendent's work. Man, let the work happen. See what happens. Give her a chance to make it work.
Well, what about in the meantime about the morale of those within the district? Should there be a concern about the morale?
Of course there should be a concern, but these are professionals, man. These men and women did not get where they are by being thin-skinned. They didn't get where they are without having to go through and navigate some hard times. This is the hardest of times.
All right, could be a bumpy road. We'll be watching. When we come back, a new chapter in the long-running dispute between State Senator Brent Taylor and District Attorney Steve Mulroy. We'll talk about the latest issue that's creating friction between those two coming up next on Informed Sources.